Well, Browns fans, the Browns officially have a 53-man roster as they turn the corner from training camp in the preseason and start looking ahead to the regular season. 53 players have made the team, and subject to change, of course, because these things are always pretty fluid this time of year. A lot of players just entered the waiver wire that can be picked up, and there are some position groups in particular that we will talk about that might be still looking to add to the rooms, but in the meantime, Anthony Moeglin, Spencer German here to break it down with you. I think the first thing, obviously, Megs, that really stood out about the final 53 was the fact that Dustin Hopkins did not make the cut. His contract was terminated. He becomes a free agent immediately and essentially sets the stage for Andre Schmidt to be the team's kicker going into the regular season. It's a fascinating development, obviously, because Dustin Hopkins 2 years ago was pure brilliance. And unfortunately, the inconsistencies from last year spilled over into the preseason. This year, he missed the PAT, obviously, on Saturday. I kind of asked the question to my fellow media members here today, if he makes that PAT, like, is he on this roster? And I think we all kind of said, like, there's a good chance he could have been. So it's an unfortunate ending to a player that I think people not so long, even as recently as going into last year, after the great season, and he gets that contract extension, felt the Browns have resolved their kicking woes, and now they go into this season with a kicker who's never actually kicked in an NFL game. And so some of those questions will continue into 2025.
Yeah, dude. I mean, think back to Hopkins' first made kick. It was against Baker in Carolina, that 56 or 57 yarder that he made that bomb to kind of get that season going. And then he just kept making all those big time clutch kicks. And
that was Cade York though.
Was that York? Okay, I'm a year off. He came in.
Because that was Cade York's most famous moment ever, was kicking a game-winning field goal against Baker Mayfield.
Well, there we go, right? There's the revolving door of kickers continues. But it does suck, man. Like, last year was was just tough to watch. Like, the wheels fell off, and then it just was a ugly crash throughout the rest of the season. And you kind of saw the writing on the wall, man. Like, he lost his confidence totally and just could never gain it back. And sometimes those things happen, and it does suck because the Browns did commit some dollars to him. But one of those things that you got to move on, and you can't be leaving points on the field. You can't be leaving extra points on the field. You certainly cannot be missing field goals, within the 50-yard range. You got to be super consistent at the NFL level, and he just lost his touch there, which is unfortunate to see.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Everybody's, I think, really loved Dustin Hopkins the last couple of years here, fans especially, and he was always very forthcoming when it comes to his situation last year. Some of his worst games, he was standing right there, ready to answer questions, and he understood why he was being asked certain questions. Like, he was very fair about it, and he understood, like, it's a performance, it's a result-based business, and so he leaves Cleveland. With people thinking he had sort of resolved a major issue for this team over the years, and instead it still is a big question mark. And that's, listen, I understand why they couldn't keep Dustin Hopkins, because this team is already, I think, going to struggle to win football games to an extent. Like, I think they'll be competitive, but they don't have the horses to always keep up with some of these. I think they just don't have the talent, I think, to keep up with some of these other players or some of these other teams. And you don't want to have yourself to be even more behind the eight ball if your kicker can't make big kicks in certain moments for you. Like, you need that to be a position that you have confidence in. And so I understand why this happened, why they moved on from Dustin. It was just too many issues, too many miscues. But I do think, I don't know that anybody goes into the season with Schmidt in the fold feeling good about that position, if you will. So I don't know if that means there's another change coming later on down the line or what, but it's something that I think still could unfold sort of over the course of the season.
Yeah, no one really knows, and it kind of feels similar to how Hopkins started, right? They traded it for, what did they trade, a 7th-round pick for him to the Chargers, and Schmidt in his case, in 2018 when he was in college, he was the first Syracuse kicker and the 3rd freshman ever to win the Lou Groza Award. So he had it going on early in his career. He was named a unanimous All-American in that 2018 season. He won the Vlade Award. I'm not sure exactly what that Vlade Award is, but an award nonetheless. And then after that, it was kind of like super average for him at Syracuse.
Did he also win Best Dressed in high school?
He may have. But to your point, though, like never kicked in an NFL game, so it's going to be an experience for him. But in a pressure situation, I mean, the most that we can evaluate him is a game-winning field goal against the Rams on Sunday, and he got the opportunity to do it, and he hit it, right? And like that's all you can kind of go off of at this point. And you hope that he's not a topic of conversation, because if the kicker's a topic of conversation, that means bad things are happening. And in his case, you just hope that he's smooth on extra points, and then when he gets his number called to make field goals, that they're flying to the uprights and doing so at a consistent clip.
Yeah, some other notable things that came to fruition, obviously, with the roster being cut down to 53 players. Mike Hall Jr. passed his physical. We actually saw him working out in front of Andrew Berry last week, which felt like a pretty good sign that maybe he was trending in the right direction. That proved to be true. He was not out of practice today, but he makes the 53-man roster, which means they're likely anticipating he's going to be ready for week 1, I would imagine, or at least early on in the season here, where they didn't want to keep him on the PUP list and have him miss any games. So we'll see how that plays out and what that looks like. Kevin Stefanski wasn't really ready to give a timetable on when he could actually be out of practice, but that's a situation to keep an eye on, and obviously a player that people are expecting is going to have a major impact this year as a rotational piece up front in a defensive line, mind you, that is already really, really deep and loaded with different waves of players that I think Jim Schwartz is going to be able to deploy this season.
Dude, that combination of him and Mason Graham up front, right? Ohio State and Michigan side by side, but like that could be a really elite group. Those two, if they play up to their potential, that could be a big problem for a lot of offensive lines to handle. And it's so good this year. Like you see the emphasis that the Browns are building this team off of, and it starts on their lines. And this defensive line is so deep. It's so deep, and they're going to have guys rotating in and out, both in the interior and the exterior, and you feel comfortable about a lot of them. And getting Mike Hall back will be a huge thing for the Browns this year and in years to come, so he can kind of develop that chemistry running right alongside Mason Graham there.
Yeah, so that's a good update, obviously, that Mike Hall should be back sooner rather than later. Again, we'll keep an eye on it for you. But I think you're right, Megs. Like, whether it's him starting alongside Mason Graham, whether it's Malik Collins and Mason Graham, and then he rotates in, it's just more depth at that position group, and a group that's already really deep as well. So I'm sort of interested to see how quickly he gets back out there, what it looks like. But yeah, that's just another reason why that unit in particular is considered one of the best, I think, in football, certainly the best unit on this team. I think they're going to dominate this year. That defense is going to go as they go. The team might honestly go as that defensive line goes. And so getting Mike Hall back would obviously be huge, especially to start the season. Another injury note is that everyone's favorite quarterback, Deshaun Watson, was placed on the PUP list. You didn't like that setup? He was placed on the physically unable to perform list, the reserve physically unable to perform list before the roster cutdown sort of happened here, which means, like Nick Chubb last year, has to miss at least 4 games. And then after that, the Browns have a 5-week window where they can activate him to the active roster, or he reverts back to the PUP list. I understand people don't really want to hear about Deshaun. He's kind of out of sight, out of mind for a lot of fans, and I understand why. But how they handle this is going to be very fascinating to me, because if he's cleared to play, I don't know how the Browns sort of skirt around maybe not trying to play him this year if it becomes like a discrepancy with the NFLPA. I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's just like the team doctors telling him, hey, we don't feel like you're ready to go out there, and that's how they kind of go around it. But that's going to be a fascinating thing to sort of monitor and see how they handle, because once he gets through that first 4 weeks, he could come back at any moment. And then even beyond that, like, they'll have 5 weeks to activate him. Will they activate him? Otherwise, his season's over. So I don't think this is something that we have to worry about right now, because, again, he's at least out for the first 4 weeks. But that middle stretch of the season, this will be something that's brought up, I'm sure, weekly, where Kevin Stefanski's getting asked, like, what about Deshaun Watson? And it'll just kind of be this, like, waiting game. Everyone will be waiting with bated breath to find out what the plan is for him and if they are going to activate him and actually carry 4 quarterbacks later on this season.
Dude, it's interesting too, because it's just one of those things that we goes back to our show last night where we talked about, hey, when do the rookies start coming into play? And we kind of went through the schedule and found a couple spots where you could start seeing it happen. that just throws a whole nother wrinkle into this whole situation, which just doesn't need to be there. I'm not if I'm a betting man, which I tend to be, I don't think he plays snap for the Browns this year. But I'm not willing to like put my reputation on the line for that because I don't know, right?
Well, how could you? How could you in with the last 4 years or the last 2 years rather? You've had 4+ quarterbacks start for this team. Like, how could you even possibly want to bet on anything like that when you just never know what's going to happen? Week 16, 17, when the 18, when the Browns need a quarterback, and they're like, well, this is our last guy, so let's just go to him because everybody else is hurt.
And he's posting the videos of him working out and like, he's throwing, but does his ankle look good? And everyone's like looking at it. Like, is he, firing off that Achilles? It's like, oh my gosh, here we go. Like, this is.
Does he have zip? Does he not have zip?
Yeah, the zip conversation is back. Like, let's go. Give me more. That's what the people need, dude. Is more zip conversation. It's just that would be, man. Talk about losing a fan base, man. Like
yeah. One thing I will say, Kevin Stefanski was asked directly about whether or not Deshaun's timetable played a role in them trading Kenny Pickett because they didn't want to have 5 quarterbacks essentially all on this team or on the roster at some point. And he stuck to the script very much on that and just kind of directed the focus back to Deshaun's rehabbing nicely. He's doing all the things he needs to do. He looks good, blah, blah, blah. So, it's a classic Kevin Stefanski tactic. I don't really know if it means anything. But it sounds like they are just trying to basically not have to even open up that can of worms right now and talk about it and worry about it. And so I would say Browns fans probably don't have to worry about it, but it's notable today because you had to give him some sort of designation when the roster was finalized here, but now we get to put it sort of on ice for the next 5 weeks or so until he's able to practice again. So we'll see. The last thing I was going to bring up, other than the fact that there's some really cool feel-good stories on this team, Aiden Huntington making the roster is awesome. We actually got a chance to talk to him today. If you've never heard him talk, go check out the press conference right here with the Cleveland Browns on SI because his press conference was awesome. He had some really good stuff to say. He talked about like his work ethic, talked about like why, how he played fullback in high school. And so that was why the Browns were like, let's use him as a fullback. So there's all kinds of cool sort of fun stuff from that press conference if you get a chance to watch it. We also talked to Gage Larvidan today for the third time this training camp and how great he's been and just his feelings about making this team. So that was kind of cool. But in terms of the roster itself, to sort of get attention back to that, there's one position group that is very shorthanded right now, and it's the running back room. Browns only kept 2 guys there. It's Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson. It was a very sad group practicing with Deuce Staley today. They were kind of just like, it was just those 2 getting yelled at by Deuce Staley, and that was it. And so Kevin Stefanski was asked point blank, like, can you tell fans like the assurance that it's going to be more than 2 running backs on this team? He said there'll be more than 2 running backs on this team. So they are planning on adding another one to this group at some point. The question is, Megs, how are they adding another one? Is it Quinshon Judkins finally coming into the building, or is it, trading for a guy or picking up a guy off of waivers that somebody else cut? That's the big $1 million question. But I did think so. Yeah, like I talked about at the top, like this roster is far from finalized because that group specifically is going to be adding something to help sort of fill it out the rest of the way because they're not going to go into the season with just 2 running backs on this roster.
Yeah, you absolutely hope that this is a sign pointing to Quinshon Judkins being on the roster soon, sooner rather than later. And by that, you mean like within the next week or so because they got a game in 10 days now. So like, will he even be game ready is a big question. And like, that leads you to believe that they're going to try to pick somebody up off of waivers, like maybe an Audric Estime who got cut in Denver. And there's some others that are out there that at least, are in football shape to have that third guy on the roster. I don't know. It's a very interesting thing because if they are putting all their eggs into the Quinshon Judkins basket, like how quickly can you be ready for a season when you miss?
Yeah.
You've been out for the last month and a half and not with the team and not practicing. So it's a very fascinating room and an interesting decision to say the least.
Well, and that might honestly be the biggest reason why I almost lean that it's probably going to be adding somebody else and not Quinshon Judkins because – like, even if Quinshon is the third, I don't know, maybe they're going to add 2 guys. Maybe they could do both, right? Quinshon could come back, and then they still could try to add a guy. I just think like going into the season with Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson, and a Quinshon Judkins who hasn't been here, has to get acclimated, is going to have a lot of catching up to do. Like, I don't know that that's prudent to, like how this team wants to start the season, hitting the ground running, all those different things. So that to me is very much TBD. And so I don't know, maybe they double dip and they do both. But the last we knew, the NFL said they were still looking into the incident, and so there was no conclusion given yet on his status, if he's going to get suspended, all those different things.
Big time stuff, man. It's going to be an interesting way that they handle this. And it's an important thing too, because in the Quinshon thing, like, he hasn't even been tackled yet. He hasn't been tackled by an NFL player yet. So you can't roll him out there in week 1 and expect anything if that is the route. So like you said, I think I'm in agreement. Like, that leads me to believe that, hey, they got somebody circled, or at least a couple guys circled, that they're going to go try and get. But we'll see. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
I mean, everybody would hope that it is the former, and that it's Quinshon being able to show up to the building and he gets the contract worked out, and then you can have another rookie that's ready to contribute to this team sooner rather than later.
Coming out of the tunnel at Ohio State on Saturday against Texas, according to Mike Florio.
Can I be honest about that take?
Go crazy.
That's like the second time that Mike Florio's dropped that, and it's no disrespect to Mike Florio. I think he just wants to be the first person to, like, he's just going to say that every time there's like a guy that isn't signed for a while. Like, next year he'll do the same thing with like a second-round pick that isn't signed. Like, oh, he could go back to college, so that the first time it happens and somebody actually does it, he can be like, "See, I told you. I've been telling you this for years that this was going to happen." So that's what that feels like to me, because I just don't see any way where Quinshon Judkins is going back to college. But I mean, hey, maybe Ohio State could use him against Texas on Saturday. I don't know.
And he gets a boatload of retweets from every single Ohio State fan there ever was, or Texas A&M fan, or whatever it is. He's playing the game.
Ohio State's got their own problems to worry about when they're banning Michigan alumni.
Michigan alumni. That's on another show. We're going to talk about that one on another show.
Yeah. Soft like Charmin, but that's for another day. Last couple things. I was just going to say Denzel Ward returned to practice today. Cedric Tillman returned to practice today, so those are some good updates. Couple guys, I know Cornelius Lucas, Mahmoud Diabate, Mike Hall, as I mentioned, and Blake Whiteheart, I think, was the list of guys that were not practicing today. So those guys still sort of dealing with some things, but I'm assuming because they made the 53 without any injury designations or anything, that they should be in the clear to probably play week 1 or close to it. So that's it for today's kind of reflection here on the 53-man roster. There's plenty more moves to come. Megs and I will certainly circle back with you later in the week. So if you aren't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And like I said, you're going to want to check out those 2 press conferences from today with Gage Larvadan and, of course, Aiden Huntington. Every time I start to say his name, I want to say Aiden Hutchinson, and it's not the right name.
I'll link those videos in the description. So
okay. Yeah. So we have those in the description for you. And of course, check out any of our written content as well over at si.com/NFL/Browns. In the meantime, enjoy your Tuesday or what's left of it, and keep on following along with all things Cleveland Browns with the Cleveland Browns on SI.